Hey everybody, Rosematter here. Welcome to my new Let's Play series as voted by my community. Today I'm going to be starting Chaos Child, which is the sequel to Chaos Head, which I played last year, and I enjoyed it. It's part of like the science adventure series, I believe, the same kind of world as Steins Gate. Steins Gate, I would say, was my favorite of the games from the series I played so far, but I did enjoy Chaos Head. I do love a good psychological horror, and it definitely had its moments where like it freaked me out a bit, and it had me second guessing things, questioning things, so it did a really good job about that. So yeah, we're going to be getting back into that world and playing the sequel. Now, if you do not know the story of Chaos Head, I would recommend either to play it for yourself or to check out my playthrough of it, because it's highly recommended to know the story of Chaos Head before you play Chaos Child. So yeah, let's check it out. Let's see how it compares to the first one. I'm excited to get back into this world, so without further ado, let's get into it. November 6, 2009 AD, 10:28 p.m. It came without warning. It was a magnitude 7.8 earthquake with an epicenter directly under the city. This disaster reduced one of Tokyo's busiest downtown areas to nothing in a single night. Oh, yes. I am happy that we're kind of getting, like, what happened after, right? The high-rise buildings that had birthed so many trends and fads collapsed, as if giving up on their role in society. Black fires spread through the city. As individuals fell into the grip of the crowd's psychology, their terror was magnified. Combined, all of these things took many lives, because what I remember from Chaos Head is it showed the direct aftermath of the earthquake and what happened, but like it didn't show really into the future, the city rebuilding. You have to assume the city did rebuild at some point. The final death toll was 3,851. The final number of injured, 30,927. This event would later be known as the Shibuya earthquake. Even in all that destruction, people still suffered the most in their hearts. Some who had lost their families came together to share new resolve, while others who'd been forced to watch their friends die were driven by guilt to take their own lives. See, this will be interesting, like the psychology of like what happens after a major incident like this. As a baby was miraculously reunited with his parents after 72 hours, a child in an evacuation shelter asked her dad, "When's mommy coming home?" He had no answer. Some of the wounded made it to hospitals by looking at real-time updates on the web. Others saw people on the internet talking about the disaster as if it were a movie and were driven mad. A homeless man was saved from malnutrition by an organized volunteer group, but at the same time, a middle school boy punched a self-centered volunteer who'd come to Shibuya to find himself in the face. It was the first time in that boy's life he'd ever been violent. The psychological toll was incredible, and many of the survivors would later manifest symptoms similar to those associated with PTSD. Okay, let me see. How do I get to the... how do I get to the menu? I'll get back to it at some point once I figure out the controls. The young were hit the hardest, and before long, the cause of those symptoms were given a name: Chaos Child Syndrome. Oh, okay, so I get, is this going to be like years in the future with, you know, I assume like the children have grown up into high schoolers and they're dealing with this, and then they become like the new, maybe not gigalomaniacs, but something similar to that. I like this concept already. I find this very interesting. Rebuilding happened at a feverish pitch never seen before. It felt inappropriate to say hang in there, but people felt that somebody had to do something. From what I've seen, like when it comes to natural disasters and things like this that happen, it's crazy. Japan especially just seems to just rebuild things so quickly, and it's like you see the before and after of, you know, a major incident. Maybe not this major, but it's like within a couple of days sometimes things will just be basically back to normal again. The new slogan was Shibuya, a city reborn, and no amount of money or manpower was spared in aiding the endeavor. The whole town was in the grip of a fever. In private, a leader of the redevelopment efforts said, "This may sound unkind, but this frenzy feels like a town burying its grief by holding a festival." Building codes were rigorously evaluated with an eye toward earthquake engineering. Perhaps in an effort to emphasize the city's safety, security cameras were put up all over town. Shibuya would become a place where everyone could live in peace. But at the same time, a rumor began to spread about the earthquake. Something about this earthquake doesn't make sense. There were no aftershocks, and the damage had spread in a strange way. Harajuku and Ibisu, areas only a kilometer away from Shibuya, suffered few casualties and even fewer collapsed buildings. This damage pattern had never been observed in any prior earthquake, and so more than a few pundits claimed the Shibuya earthquake must have been artificial. More than anything, some of the survivors all said the same things. I saw a white light. I heard a sound like a ringing in my ears. Too many people experienced this for anyone to laugh it off, but no cause of those phenomena were ever found. It was just more evidence to those who believed that something about the earthquake had been wrong. Then, 6 years after the strange earthquake, in 2015, something else was about to attract attention in the reborn city of Shibuya. What I am learning about this, like the science adventure games, or really most Japanese games, is stay the fuck out of Tokyo. Like, all the bad stuff seems to happen there. September 7th, 2015, Sunday night.
はい。ではいつも通り3分くらい募集をかけるんで、適当によろです。
The second he spoke, the comment box started to fill. Ootani Yuuma watched it for a few seconds, and then saw the request. When does Haru-chan tell us she's dating someone? He smiled to himself. Just what he wanted. Most of the requests were about hot actors or cute idols. His audience was so stupid that it was easy to tell exactly what they were going to ask. The problem was always whether the name that came up was someone he knew. That was a question of luck, and of how popular they were. But Haru-chan, her full name was Haruko something or other. She was fine. Just a few days ago, he'd forced himself to go to an event he'd rather have skipped and seen it for himself.
Yes.
Alright, there we go. I figured out the controls here. So, Haru-chan, fictional Haruko Natsuno, a 19-year-old minor celebrity. Haru-chan became famous as a result of her bold declaration that no one her age knew as much about retro games and retro anime as she did, as well as her ability to back up that declaration on various podcasts and live streams. She's known for wearing glasses, and her plain clothes and hairstyle are said to be one of the many reasons she's popular with otaku. She also regularly holds online podcasts that are open to the public. That PTSD, short for Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder, from the DSM-IV, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders 4th edition, published by the American Psychiatric Association, 1994. A mental condition caused by the severe psychological shock of an accident, disaster, crime, or other intense stressor. It induces several stress-related symptoms, including emotional instability, insomnia, confusion, and vivid flashbacks. These symptoms are often triggered in response to stimulus that is similar to the original trauma. A patient must experience these symptoms for over a month in order to be diagnosed with PTSD. So while I was checking out the controls, I did see that there's an option for what are they called? just check it again. Delusions. So my guess is that the Chaos children that suffered through the Shibuya earthquake, 6 years later, probably high schoolers, probably going to be the group that we are going to be mostly interacting with. Maybe they're going to have delusions that are related to their PTSD. That's just my initial guess. Satisfied, Ootani got up to get some snacks like he always did. He lived in a one-bedroom condo located 8 minutes from Shibuya Station, cost 150,000 yen per month. It had been built after the earthquake, so the furnishings and layouts were modern. A little more room would have been nice, but compared to the 40,000 yen per month place he'd lived in last year, it was heaven.
来年にはもうちょっと便利なところに引っ越すか。
At 21 years old, Ootani felt satisfied for the first time in his life. In 4th grade, he'd gotten big into online gaming and stopped going to school. Eventually, he'd stopped leaving his room altogether. Then, he'd gotten addicted to drugs that made him sleepy but did nothing else. Once, seeing only darkness in his future, he'd planned to commit suicide. In the chaos after the earthquake 6 years ago, he'd finally managed to leave his room, but his family had already given up on him. After he failed his entrance exams, he went to live on his own in Shibuya, and he hadn't spoken to his parents since. As far as they knew, he'd failed the exams 3 times in a row. In fact, he hadn't even gone to the test after the first time. There wasn't anything he wanted to learn in college, or any companies he wanted to work for badly enough. He had no goal in life at all. But things were different now. At channel. Alright, at channel, Japan's most popular anonymous message board covers a wide variety of topics, from cooking to anime to current events. Its catchphrase is everything from hacking to tonight's dinner. As of 2015, half of its users are in their late 20s to early 40s, and the age of the average user goes up every year. The primary reason for this is believed to be that younger users are switching to social networks. He took a block of cheap cheese he'd bought at the supermarket out of the fridge. Usually, he never ate anything this cheap. But on Nikonia live streaming, it wasn't just what you said, it was how you looked when you said... Okay, how you looked when you said it also mattered. Ootani wasn't a good-looking man, let alone a cute girl. He was just a plain old guy, so to keep his program popular, he needed to make them think he was poor, barely managing to scrape by, in fact. So the interesting is, like, how is he making this money, right? It's like he's... I mean, 150,000 yen? That's like, what, about $1,500 a month? It's, like, not crazy, but it's not nothing, you know? And especially, like, if he didn't go to college, he failed his exams, it doesn't seem like he's working for a company. Curious about what he's doing. Is it a whole thing where it's like, he talks about, like, oh, I've got all these things, like, I know all these rumors about celebrities and stuff, and that's what people tune in for. It's like he's a live streamer, I guess. Okay, live streaming. A live streaming service offered by Nikonia Video, also known as Nia Live. Just like normal Nikonia videos, viewers can embed comments into the video itself, and the streamer can see what the viewers are saying in real time. Nikonia offers official live streams as well, and while they used to be dedicated to various subcultures back when the site was first founded, they've recently branched out into subjects such as news, sports, politics, and economics. Okay, last month he'd finally reached his goal of 4,000 viewers. For a man with nothing going for him like Ootani, this was extremely unusual. 3 months ago, he'd guessed the winners of a popularity contest a certain idol group was holding. Okay, so yeah, people think he has, like, all this insight into, like, celebrities. As well as their total number of votes. That must have really paid off. After that, his numbers have been going up steadily. Late last month, when his streams had appeared at the top of Nikonia Video's page, he'd seen a huge increase. Video sharing service... wait, I've already seen the Nikonia video. Oh, it's slightly different. A video sharing service that boasts one of the... I guess it's kind of like Twitch, YouTube kind of thing. Video sharing service that boasts one of the largest user bases in Japan. Its most distinctive feature is that viewers' comments can be embedded directly into the video rather than simply being displayed elsewhere. A large portion of Nikonia's user base is from the younger generations. The music section especially has gained a recent influx of users, which has in turn led to it establishing its very own unique culture. Right now, he'd gone above 4,500, and it was quite possible he'd break 5,000 by the end of the month. It was around late last year when he'd started to wonder about his power. It was a certain rumor on one of @Channel's occult boards that made him really start to realize what he had. The name he'd chosen for his stream subtly reflected this. TIL, I can see the future. He took out a knife to cut the cheese. There was a strange sound.
Huh?
He thought he just imagined it when... Knock, 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 knock. He heard it again. It was coming from the door. Someone was clearly knocking on his door.
Mitsurin-ka?
Jungle, let's see, what's that? Jungle, an American online... Oh, Amazon. An American online shopping site that is the largest in the world. It sells books, appliances, food, clothes, and more. Anything you can imagine is on sale there. It said that 1 in 5 internet users has purchased something from it. Suspicious, he walked toward the door to answer, then checked the clock. It was 11:41 p.m. Not exactly normal delivery hours.
なんだよ。つか、生放送中だっつうの。
He tried to ignore it, but... The knocking continued. It was the same rhythm, the same pace. As if the visitor's goal wasn't to come inside, but simply to make that sound. Ootani felt a little bit creeped out. He decided to go to the intercom camera and see who it was, but then realized it'd be pointless. Only the auto-locking door on the first floor had a camera. The door to Ootani's room on the 5th floor had an intercom, but no camera. Ootani gave up.
つうか、用ならインターホン押せよ。
Knock, 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 knock.
酔っ払いか?
No, the knocks were too steady for that, and there was no voice yelling at him to open up. He'd seen this door a million times, but suddenly it looked somehow different. Someone he didn't know was on the other side of the wall, demanding entry in the middle of the night. Somehow this made the door seem intimidating. Ootani thought he might look through the peephole to see who was outside. He was then disgusted to find himself too scared to even get close to the door. Wait, the intercom didn't have a camera, but it did have a microphone. He turned toward the living room so he could use the intercom and find out what they wanted. Ootani-san, it's me. Sorry to come by so suddenly. He stopped when he heard that voice. It's me. Sorry to bother you when it's this late. Ootani tried to remember who the speaker was, but found he couldn't. But from the tone of the voice and the words, they probably weren't a weirdo. When they said, I'm sorry, it sounded like they really meant it. Ootani sighed softly with relief, then realized he was still carrying the knife he'd been using to cut cheese. It suddenly felt stupid to be so nervous. He quickly laid the knife on top of the sink. Is this dude about to be killed? Is it a thing where it's like we think that this is going to be the main character, and then he just dies at the beginning? It's me, don't you remember? The voice simply repeated itself. But who are you? Ootani whispered to himself as he opened the door. Ootani narrowed his eyebrows at the people standing there. He looked them up and down, and then looked at their faces again. Their eyes met. Oh? Ootani suddenly felt a piercing headache. Ootani closed his eyes and put his right hand up to his temple. He could feel the blood pouring in his veins through his fingers, or pounding, not pouring, that's horrifying. He staggered and quickly put his other hand against the wall to keep from falling over. The Pain was like the old days when he'd overdosed on antidepressants, but much more intense. He grit his teeth against the pain and dug his nails into the wall that was holding him up, as he waited for the pain in his fingers to help dull the pain in his mind. Ootani-san, are you feeling okay? He heard a voice he'd heard many times before and felt a concerned hand on his shoulder. He somehow managed to ignore the pain and open his eyes. A worried face was peering down at him.
大丈夫。最近たまにあるんだ。
Overwork, perhaps? You've been so busy lately. You shouldn't push yourself so hard.
相変わらず心配性だな、お前は。大丈夫だよ。さあ、入ってくれ。
He opened his mouth as wide as he could and moaned, trying to ease the pain as he let his important guests inside. As he turned his back on his guests, he told himself that it had been a long time since he'd seen them. Or maybe not. It couldn't have been more than 2 months since they'd last met. It only felt long because he'd wanted to see them so badly.
そうだ。せっかく来てもらったのにすまん。生放送中なんだよ。
While he was out here, he decided he'd cut some cheese for himself and his guests. Oh, don't worry about us.
いや、お前ら相手にそういうわけにもいかないだろう。ん？
What's wrong?
いや、なんでもない。
The blade wasn't cutting into the cheese. That's strange, he told himself as he pushed down with more force. He cut into its surface. Oh god, did he just like cut his hand? He cut into its surface and it just sounded like flesh more than cheese. He cut into its surface and it made an unpleasant sound he'd never heard before. Maybe it is, maybe he cut his hand, but no matter how hard he pushed, it wouldn't go further. Confused, he yanked the knife back and forth like a saw, but it only cut in slightly deeper. It was as if there was something hard inside the cheese, and even though he'd only just taken it out of the fridge, it was slightly warm. Irritated, he slammed the handle of the knife against the cheese, but all it did was bash it in a little. He couldn't cut through it. I'll help you. His guests must have heard the sound because they rushed over. They had another knife. When did that get out, right? The fact they have a knife, that's, there's a trick to cutting it. They put the knife up against the cheese and began to move it with a practiced hand. It sounds like your work is going well. They smiled at Ootani, their voices slightly low. Ootani realized that they were trying to keep their voices from being picked up by the streaming microphone, and lowered his voice as well. He grinned and nodded. His guest had introduced him to a firm that handled advertising space for popular websites, which had given him regular work. His reputation had quietly spread throughout the small web advertising industry, and soon he was getting more and more offers. Then why do these streams?
一言では言いづらいな。強いて言えば、自分がどこまでいけるか試したいみたいな感じなんだけど。
That's right. His power wasn't meant to be wasted on jobs that anyone could do.
誰も経験したことないから、誰かに聞くってわけにいかないだろ。だから自分でやれるだけやってみたいっつうか。ってかっこよすぎか、これは。
No, it's wonderful, I think. And done. After he'd smacked it a few times, the cheese was a little funny looking, but the even slices were lined up neatly on the plate. As there's like, I'm just waiting for them to be like his fingers or something. Like he's trying to eat his, like they cut his fingers. He doesn't even notice. I know that these games can get pretty dark, so I'm like, that's just where my mind is going. It's nothing. Go on. I'll wait until your stream is finished.
冷蔵庫の中適当に見繕ってくれていいから。静かにな。
Ootani took his cheese back to his seat and saw a flood of comments reading, "He's late. Did he log off?" What should have been only 3 minutes had turned into more than 15. Okay, it's not his fingers. Okay, so that's good. Maybe he's just seeing this, though. It's like the delusion is gonna wear off, and it's like, it's your fingers. Ootani put a bite of the cheese in his mouth and began to chew loudly.
申し訳ない。この安売りセールしていたチーズがありえないくらい硬くて。
He apologized to the camera, remembering to keep up the act of being poor and starving. And as he'd hoped, the comments started to come in. Oh, isn't this a plot to a movie? Belongs in the trash. Those are proteins. Extreme, what happened? I'm very worried. Oh, this is making me sick. I can't read comments or watch this. I can only laugh. Right? That's definitely not cheese. That's definitely not cheese. That's like his fingers, I bet. Ootani's face took on a confused expression. The comments were strange. He thought there might be something on the camera, but he turned around and saw only his fake, poor room.
どうしました?
He spoke into the camera, but the comments still didn't make any sense, and they were coming in faster. Maybe there was a problem with the camera? He reached his right hand out towards it, but his hand, he's trying, like, I'm guessing, like, he's trying to grab at his camera, but he can't because it's just a nub. Yep. In an instant, his headache was back. I'm guessing that's what it is. It was the same pain as before. No, worse. He closed his eyes and jerked forward, banging his head against the desk. But the pain in his head was so bad that he didn't even feel it. He tried to hold his head in his hands, but for some reason his right hand wouldn't move. So instead he pushed his other hand up against his temple. It felt squishy. The vein was incredibly swollen, and it felt like rubber. And each time he felt his blood pulse through it, there was an unpleasant sensation in his fingers. He stamped his feet against the floor, hoping to find some small escape from the pain. But it didn't even get slightly better. It was then that he realized he was crying. He could feel the tears coming from his eyes. The pain was moving there now, too. Unable to bear it, he opened his eyes. Yeah, whoa. Oh, shit, he gasped. The whole scene appeared in front of him like some kind of awful magic trick. Whoa. He suddenly heard the sound of something wet dripping onto the floor. His eyes reflexively turned toward it. His right arm... Oh, shit! Oh, not just... Okay, not just his fingers like I thought. His whole arm. His right arm was gone, and his stump was gushing blood. There was a pool of it on the floor, and the sound he heard was the new blood splattering into it. Huh? Ootani didn't understand what had happened to him. What was going on? He'd just gone to check on a knock at the door. The pain screamed within him. Any sense of pain in what remained of his right arm was overcome by the pain in his head. He felt nothing from his arm at all, though he saw the blood dripping to the floor. What the hell was going on? He blinked and forced his aching eyes to function as he looked around the room. On top of his desk, he found the rest of his arm. It was sitting on a plate. At first, it looked like it was still in one piece, but it wasn't. It was neatly sliced into uniform pieces. Each piece was about a centimeter wide, and the slices moved neatly toward his fingers. They sat upon the plate in roughly his arm's original shape. Miraculously, he saw there was no blood on the tip of his index finger. He still didn't understand that it was really his own arm, but sheer disgust at what he saw caused him to leap out of his chair. What was this? What kind of prank was this? The contents of his stomach flooded into his mouth. He vomited. The pink fluid splashed against the desk. He saw something solid in the middle of it. It was a thumb. It was covered in bite marks, saliva, and stomach acid, but horribly, he remembered it. What? When had he put that into his mouth? In his pain-filled mind, he suddenly heard a sound he'd never heard before. Each time he heard the sound, the pain in his head got worse. He turned toward the camera, hoping for an answer to what was happening. But of course, there was none to be found. The screen was still filling with comments, but his eyes were too filled with tears for him to read them. As the whole world turned red, Ootani didn't even realize that his lips were turning purple. His lips had turned purple from lack of oxygen, but were stained red with blood from his severed thumb, which he had chewed himself. As he tried to fight the pain, he began to fall unconscious, and tears fell from his eyes. The tears seemed pink to him. Ootani was weeping blood. He died, still facing the camera. God damn. Well, I mean, I knew he wasn't the main character because, well, like, I've seen the pictures, I've seen what the actual main character is, and it wasn't him. But still, wow. What an introduction. His guests watched the chain of events unfold, then silently headed for the door. Just before they left the room. Goodbye, they said, as if nothing at all was wrong, and shut the door. September 19th, 2015, Friday night. Takayanagi Momone had finished her concert. Like always, she stayed behind to help put away the instruments. She even helped clean up the audience seats, even though that was the concert hall's job. Only after all that was done could she take a break. There wasn't much time left before her solo street concert, but she still had to help anyway. So, what was the name of, I can't remember, the girl who was like the singer in Chaos? I apologize, it's been a little while since I played Chaos Head. Her name started with an A. Ayami? I might be wrong about that, but like her name, Fess. So it's like we got another singer here. She'd always been like that. Even if it wasn't her responsibility, she couldn't help but get involved. It was like in middle school when one of her friends who wasn't as good at studying asked her for test notes. Or in high school when a girl she knew asked her how to make Valentine's chocolate for a boy she really liked. She'd stayed up so many nights that her own test grades were worse than her friends', and she didn't even have anyone to give chocolate to on Valentine's Day. In the end, it was the other person's responsibility, not hers, but... Takayanagi Momone was, at heart, scared of not doing everything she could, even if everything wasn't her responsibility. The concert today was another big success. Sure, it was a tiny room that could only fit in 150 people or so, standing room only. But tickets were 3,000 yen, high for a band with an amateur vocalist like her, and they still sold out instantly. It was bizarre how excited the crowd was. She'd heard sobs during the ballad, and during one of the high-tempo songs, the audience had stood up all the way to the back row. She felt a chill and hugged herself tightly. It's not that her band wasn't popular. It started out in the Nikoniya Sang It category, and it kept going by doing covers of popular anime songs. Alright. I don't think we need to see LOL. I'll just get rid of it anyway, we know what LOL is. Alright, a category on the Nikoniya video website. In this case, categories are genres defined by the site's administrator, such as anime, gaming, and sports, that are used to classify the videos that users post. Sang It, as the name suggests, is a genre in which the uploader sings a song in the video. There are many different types of videos in the Sang It category, such as original songs, covers, or even songs with lyrics added to what was originally instrumental music. It helped that her face, which had earned her the nickname Scarecrow in school, could look really good when she wore makeup. And if all of them put on ridiculous costumes and acted like idiots, some people would enjoy that. Videos of their concerts and performances pulled a decent number of views online. But Takayanagi noticed the vast majority of the people looking at the videos were people who'd come to her concerts. People who'd experienced that insane intensity were going back to the videos to try and feel it again. And Takayanagi knew they probably wouldn't feel even 1% of it. The ticket prices and audience sizes were one thing, but the strangest thing to her were their eyes. Their eyes pierced right through her, unblinking. They were like pets, totally dependent on their master. The meaning of the lyrics began to take over their lives. They never even questioned it. This really does sound like Fest, doesn't it?
やっぱり私の声はおかしいんだ。
When she first realized that this was happening, she tried to quit the band. Even if she couldn't, she at least wanted to stop doing the live shows where people heard her directly. But the others around her wouldn't let that happen. Your voice is amazing, they would tell her. They forced her to keep singing, even as the concerts began to terrify her. Takayanagi tried to get out of it, but in the end, she kept giving in. She owed her fellow bandmates for getting a plain, dull girl like her into music. And for a while, part of her managed to have fun. But in the end, Takayanagi lacked the tiny bit of courage needed to break out of the cycle. She forced herself to get up and head toward the street concert, which she didn't really want to do. She'd received an email. She read it slowly. She almost dropped her smartphone. She read it again and again, trying to control her shaking hands. It was nothing special, just a simple message about one of the songs she'd made. Good song, keep it up. Takayanagi tried to stop the tears, but couldn't. The band would get too many messages like this to count, especially after concerts. She knew it was rude, but to be honest, she was sick of them. But this email address wasn't for her band. It was one for a site where she had anonymously uploaded original songs. In other words, whoever sent this message hadn't come to her concerts. They'd never heard her voice live, or felt its strange power. But they'd still said they liked her song. Wiping away tears that wouldn't stop, she quickly wrote a response. That makes me really happy, thank you. Even after she sent it, she kept crying for a while. She hadn't cried this much since the earthquake. And then she stood up. She took her costumes for the day's concert out of her bag, balled them up, and threw them into the trash. It was a white caped outfit worn by some angel character in some anime. Certain fans really loved it, but she didn't care about it at all. She took a wet towel off a nearby table and violently wiped away her makeup. She was never wearing another cape or putting on makeup to look like an anime character again. Never, she said aloud. She realized she was more excited than she'd ever been before. And then she started to realize what she wanted to do. That's a good idea. That's a good idea, I think. What would happen if she said she was going to quit the band? It caused trouble for a lot of people, definitely. Her band was scheduled to play in the Restoration Festival. But even so, she never wanted to sing at another concert. Now it just makes me want to see what she looks like. She laughed and kissed her smartphone. She couldn't wait to get home and start fiddling with her music. Over the web, she could really share her music with others. As long as they weren't hearing her voice live, it'd be fine. If she just played a recording from a speaker, for example. That's right. She'd leave Shibuya, and when she had a few more songs, she could record them and play them at a street concert. That speaker was small enough that she could fit it under her clothes to fool people. It would be rude to do the same song every time, so each time she would re-record it at home. Oh, there's the knock again. Oh shit. There was a knock at the door. One of the staffers, maybe. So it's like, it'd be wild if it was just like the first hour or so, or just all these characters that you think are going to be possibly like part of the main crew, and then they just die off. So it seems like these people who have special abilities, and then there's this knock at the door and they die. So with the guy before, it was his ability to predict things. With her, it's like her voice enchants people. She smiled and answered them. Now that she'd thrown away her clothes, her bag was lighter than she'd ever imagined it could be. I feel bad for this girl. I've just met her. If she dies, it's like she's ready to like take control of her life and do what she wants to do, and she's so happy, and then like dead. That lightness made her think about the future. She was happy. Knock. Knock, knock. Knock.
Hi.
Takayanagi happily danced toward the door, completely ignorant of what was on the other side. Okay, so this, they didn't even go into detail. Like, they know what happens when you hear that knock. You're dead. September 19th, 2015, Friday night. Shortly after she'd finished, she was walking through Shibuya. She had a limp and dragged one leg behind her as if she were injured. Her bangs were unnaturally long. Most of her face was covered by them. She wore a dark-colored dress that seemed to melt into the night, and above it, a bright red cardigan. Her chest, arms, and legs were almost completely covered. Despite the fact the night was still warm, she wore gloves, as if it were a sin to show any skin at all. She ran into a couple coming out of a hotel and staggered slightly. But she didn't even look at the people she ran into. She looked down and disappeared into the streets of Shibuya.
誰決めな。
ねえ、今の人の顔見た?
And they had the whole thing too about the security cameras. They talked about like, oh, Shibuya has all of these cameras to make sure nothing bad happens.
んだよ。
気持ち悪い。何あれ？何？あの目。
Whose eyes are those eyes? Chapter 1, Digital Native. The right sider chases the cases. Let's say that, for example, you asked a kid in middle school, do you know what Schrodinger's cat is? This is the joke, isn't it? This is the joke about visual novels. How long is it going to be before, like, especially like a mystery, or like a murder thing? How long before Schrodinger's cat is mentioned? In this case, about 40 minutes. Most would say yes, or I've heard of it. We'll start by eliminating the DQNs who say they've never heard of it. Oh shit, DQNs. Oh, what am I doing here? Sorry. Net slang, pronounced doikun. Dokyun, used to refer to people who are stupid, antisocials, or delinquents. Dokyun. Will I say Dokyun? Maybe not. I might just keep saying DQN. I'll try and remember Dokyun. Next you ask, well, what was it? Next we eliminate those poor fools who say, it's something about a cat in a box, right? Or there's this cat, but you don't know if it's alive or dead, right? Or maybe they say, there's a cat in a box, and next to it, there's a device that may or may not give off poison gas. You don't know if the cat's alive or dead until you open the box. Everybody knows that. We can eliminate those show-offs as well. Anybody from those groups is a wrong-sider. Okay, wrong-sider, someone on the wrong side of the digital or information divide. Originally, the term referred to those who, for various reasons, found it difficult to make use of information and communications technology such as the internet. However, in recent years, it has also come to refer to people who can't properly use the information they do have, or who are simply ignorant. The term is often used on internet message boards and other places online in order to insult people who have poor, misguided reasoning, or are using information that is considered outdated. Miyashiro uses this term in the latter sense of the word, not its original meaning. Okay, so this is, I'm guessing, our main character, Miyashiro. So do we have another, like, he's like a Takumi, where it's just he's very, like, he thinks he's better than everybody. He's like, oh, those doki, like, he even calls them the dokyans, like Takumi did. In this case, it almost looks like he's in, it's not like Takumi, where Takumi was in a storage container. This almost looks like an RV or something. Interesting. The right answer would be to describe the experiment and then say, it was a thought experiment proposed by Schrödinger to criticize the quantum mechanical theory that states state collapse only occurs after human observation. This dude sounds like the, well, actually, personification of someone. but barely anyone can do that. And you want to talk about a try-hard or a show-off? This dude. And I'd imagine I'm the only guy who's still in high school who knows that. Schrödinger got the idea after exchanging letters with Einstein. Oh my god, this guy already sounds like insufferable. I know people have their opinions about, like, a lot of people said that the worst part of Chaos Head was the protagonist. And some people say that that's what made the game and the story so interesting, was having a character who you just don't care for, was someone that would just drive you up the wall if you knew them in real life. I hate wrong-siders. I'd taken a break from investigating the 2 incidents that had occurred recently in Shibuya, and was paging through some at-channel blog aggregators for a change of pace. As always, articles about bad idols and corporations with terrible work environments were getting tons of hits. It was hard to believe that the crash of 15, a huge news story that had just happened this month, was already off the front pages. Okay, in September 2015, the largest solar storm in recorded history struck Earth, causing electronic failures worldwide, the massive damage from the world's infrastructure, and the panic that resulted from it in some areas, particularly in North America, became known as the Crash of 15. In this incident, a large hole opened in the Earth's geomagnetic field, leaving Earth defenseless against an incoming solar flare. Since no precautions were taken beforehand, the powerful electric current caused electronics and high-voltage transformers around the world to fail, shutting down the entire electrical grid temporarily. The reconstruction project in Shibuya following the Shibuya's earthquake had only just finished its redesign of the city's infrastructure. And while Japan suffered relatively little damage, Shibuya in particular suffered almost none. Hey, Shibuya for once is actually not screwed. Did the people reading and commenting on these sites realize that everything they'd read about corporations and idols was carefully controlled? Did they know most of the big aggregator sites are corporations too? Did they realize the comments were all manipulated to go one direction or another? Kids our ages were living in a world where all the information you could ever want was right at your fingertips. To those of us in the Satori generation, ignorance was the worst sin. Okay, so a phrase first used on the internet in Japan in the 2010s, although the exact boundaries of this generation are unspecified, is often used to refer to people born in the 1990s. Members of this generation are said to not want things they don't need, act far more logically, and avoid putting forth any unnecessary effort, hence the term Satori, enlightened. One cause of this is believed to be the internet was widely available by the time they were old enough to use it, which exposed them to information about society and the reality of the world at a far earlier point, and a far more intricate level than any generations before them. The ignorant were self-righteous, easily manipulated, and eager to push their paper-thin worldview onto others. They were nothing but a nuisance. The worst of the lot were the so-called otaku. I couldn't stand otaku. So this guy is different from Takumi. Takumi was like a card-carrying otaku. This dude is just... he's got similar tendencies, to Takumi, but yeah, it seems like he's more into investigating, maybe conspiracy theories, things like that. Take the picture on the cover of this magazine. It was from Bloodtoon. Okay, yeah, Bloodtoon, that's the one that Takumi loved. Bloodtoon, the animation. It was originally a manga, but it received an anime adaptation soon after its release. There are 26 episodes in total. Oop. I don't want to quit. What am I doing here? Any otaku who just watched it for the cute characters was a loser. There was no point in watching the show if you were going to ignore it. Oh, okay, never mind. Never mind. Okay, so he's into this stuff. Never mind. I couldn't stand people who still held to the old-fashioned idea that only otaku watched anime, but people who ignored a show's themes and just watched it for the cuteness were even worse. They were ignoring the implicit social criticism hidden in...
Nani?
I stared at the magazine in amazement. Specifically, I stared at the box that listed the next episode previews. The text said that Erin was missing. Okay, Erin, a 10-year-old female character who appears in Bloodtoon the animation. Her full name is Erin Frey Orgel. Erin speaks in a haughty, archaic manner and consistently looks down on others. She's the younger sister of Sarah Orgel, the main heroine of Bloodtoon. She has a deadly magical staff known as the Oshimusha compiler, and her catchphrase is nitwit.
Bakaka.
Damn it, I had let my guard down because I knew this episode was written by the guy who wrote the original manga.
この原作者は 原作のことが分かっていない。
How could you remove Erin from the story halfway through? Not keeping her around meant bringing all the internal drama that had been built up so far to a halt. God damn it. So much for my change of pace. I knew I had work to do on the case, but I put it away because I couldn't find any link between the two crimes. I thought for a moment, then took my magazine from its secret stash. It was an issue of an older magazine called Cool Cat Press. People called it a dating guide for normies written by someone who never dated a girl in his life, but you'd be surprised. Okay, a magazine for young men that was founded in 1979, advertised as a dating manual. It contained large amounts of information about fashion, how to seduce women, and the ideal spots for first kisses, all of which were of dubious accuracy. It was very popular between the late 80s and early 90s, but circulation gradually declined, and in 2004 the magazine shut down. Even so, various issues can still be found in the magazine corners of used bookstores.
女性が必ず落ちる告白の言葉?
Stupid. I knew it was so stupid, but... When I ran an internet search for their #1 phrase, nothing came back. And that was the thing. The fact it didn't show up on the internet meant to me that it was worth something.
誠に勝手なのですが、好きになってもいいですか?
何を?
Oh, okay. I turned to yell at the voice.
おのえ、お前いつ?
I hid my favorite magazine behind my back and tried to calm my racing heart. And we got a pink-haired girl. It's just like there already seems to be a lot of like kind of similarities between this and Chaos Head. Even if we've known each other since we were kids, don't just come in without permission. Okay, except in this case, rather than it being like a mysterious girl, this is like actually a friend of his. Okay, let's see. I couldn't let her find out. This was bad.
どうしたんだよ。なんで制服着てるんだ。帰ったんじゃないのか。
Sarika frowned.
今日の部活で事件のこと調べてこいって言ったのタコじゃん。
Oh, okay. It's like a crime club? People are into like true crime and conspiracies and shit, maybe? Huh, that's right.
はい、これ追加の現場周りの画像データ。
Sarika took out a USB memory stick out of her purse.
ありがとう。ついでに僕の PC に入れちゃってくれるか。
Sarika looked a little confused.
珍しいね。自分の PC 触らせるなんて。
別にお前はいいよ。
She didn't seem to think much of it as she started to copy the data off. Okay, now's my chance. The RV, okay, so it is an RV. The RV was cramped, but there was a lot of space for storage. I pretended to make tea as I tried to find a room on the top shelf. Okay, there's just enough room for one more magazine. I'm guessing at some point all the magazines are gonna like tumble down and she's gonna be like, what are these? And then I heard a psh psh sound, like a small fart from behind me. I glanced back and saw Sarika was using the mouse with one hand and fiddling with her Garoro strap with the other. Wow. What did they say? It was like 6 years later and Garo Froggies are still popular? This was my chance. The Garoro strap was a soft vinyl cell phone strap I'd won in a candy contest when I was a kid. Okay, so maybe they're not popular anymore. When you pushed its belly, it was supposed to say Garoro Garo. It turned out to be an incredibly rare prize that could fetch 100,000 yen in an auction. But since I was a kid who didn't know any better, I gave it to Sarika as a present. Sarika seemed to really like it, and she'd carried it with her ever since. Which, well, that was fine, but... It was old and faded, and when you pressed its belly, air leaked out of its side and made a weird noise. It used to go Garo-ro-garo, I think, but now it just made a strange whooshing sound. Ever since she was a kid, she'd had a habit of fiddling with it, especially when she was nervous or focused on something. In other words, she was focused on the computer. Now's my chance to hide it. I jammed the magazine onto the shelf and moved some things so she couldn't see it.
マウンテンビューでいいか？
いいよ、もったいないじゃん。それにすぐに帰るし。はい、終了。
There were quite a few files on the screen.
結構取ったな。成果は？
I mean, I can say already, like, I don't care for this guy's attitude, but I do appreciate the fact that he's not a total, like, social outcast. He can actually speak to people normally, so that's good.
新しい発見はなかったよ。タクは新しい共通点。
Oh, and she calls him, like, Taku. Like, that's what, oh my gosh. What was her name? I feel terrible. I don't remember the damn girl's name, the pink-haired girl that was, like, such a central character to Chaos Head. She called him Taku as well.
Yeah.
Except it's Takuru instead of Takumi. I shook my head, frustrated.
そっか。まあ、気長に行こう。じゃあ明日、部室で。
Just as she was about to leave, I got an idea.
あ、尾上。
I needed to double-check my information. She was, in theory, a girl.
あのさ。
Oh no.
例えばなんだけど。なんていうか、お前が告白されたとしてさ。いや、だから例えばこう言われたらどう？誠に勝手なのですが、好きになってもいいですかって。
さっき言ってたやつ？
それはいいから。どう？
Serica thought for a second.
年下なの？その人。
Oh, okay. Here we go. We've got our first illusion here.
Eh?
Alright, select between positive and negative using the Z and C. Okay, let's go positive, I guess. We'll try positive.
丁寧語だから。
That's true, come to think of it. Why was it so polite anyway?
年下なのかな。いや、そうじゃなくて。どう？
どうって丁寧だなって思うけど、告白されたことないからよくわかんない。
他には何か思わないか？こう素敵だなと思ったりしないか？
別に相手によるんじゃない？
What's going on here, cool cat? It would depend on the person asking the question. Of course it would.
でも告白してくれたのがタクだったらちょっとだけ考えちゃうかもしれない。
Serica's whisper was so soft I could barely hear her.
今なんて言った？
なんでも。
No, I didn't hear that wrong. Was Cool Cat right after all? No, wait. It's Serica we're talking about. Is that possible? Usually, when you've known someone since you were little, you're so close that you don't realize when they're attracted to you.
お前、僕のこと。
タクはどうなの？
どうって。
だから例えばだけど受け止めてくれるのかって話。
She was trying to hide the fact she was blushing, but she was staring straight at me as she waited for an answer. Was she serious? From the look of things, she was definitely serious. Really? Serica liked me? I suddenly started to see her not as a childhood friend, but as a member of the opposite sex. Dating her might not be so bad. We both knew everything about each other. But what was I supposed to do at a time like this? Was there anything about this in Cool Cat Press? That's right, there was a hint in the January 24th, 1999 edition, from a column called Everything You Wanted to Know About Seducing Your Childhood Friend But Were Afraid to Ask. It was, how would you like your childhood friend to say they loved you? Softly in a love letter, 5 people. In an embarrassing text message, 17 people. Wait, did they have text messages back in 99? I guess, technically. There were phones that could send text, I think, but probably not very many. Could be wrong about that. Work up the courage and kiss me now, 128 people. Work up the courage and kiss me now.
いや、セリカ。
I got close to Serika and softly put my hands on her shoulders. Our faces were right next to each other. Serika was beet red, but she didn't look away from me.
僕は優しい男だから、大切にしてやるから。
こんな急になんてダメだよ。だって
Serika's lips were quivering.
お前の唇が欲しい。
Serika closed her eyes. Oh, Onoe Serika, my beloved. Why did I not notice your beauty sooner when you were right next to me this whole time? I know this is extraordinarily selfish of me, but may I fall in love with you? No, I've already fallen in love with you. Gosh, she even kind of sounds like the girl. Gosh, why can't I remember her name? Okay, it was driving me crazy. I had to look it up. It was Rimi Sakihata. I was like, I feel like the girl in Chaos Head, her name had an S in it. I was sort of right. She whispered in a quivering voice, and I couldn't control myself any longer.
500円ちょうだい。
Give me 500. She wanted 500 yen for a kiss? That's like $5, right? That's not bad. Just okay, just 500 yen? Huh? No, wait, calm down, get a hold of yourself. This is just a simulation. This isn't what would happen in real life. It couldn't. Serika wasn't that type of girl. I took a deep breath to calm my heart.
500円って何の話？
これこれ、忘れてた。
She showed me the paper bag she was holding.
さっきそこでゲンさんに会ったの。タクにいつものだって言って渡してくれって。特価で500円でいいって立て替えたの。
いつもの？
Confused, I took the bag from her. Gensan's usual changed every time I talked to him, so I couldn't count on it. What was it today? That drunk old bastard?
何？いつものって。
なんでもない。ほら、500円。
They look like magazines. Maybe they were like more of those dating magazines or the like otaku magazines. I forced 500 yen into her hands. Ignoring her persistent questions, I led her to the door.
明日学校で。データはありがとう。助かった。
わかったよ。
Reluctantly, she left my room. Whew, damn it. Sure, this was what I always bought from Gensan, but the information in the last one was no good. What the heck was a cool cat anyway? A cold cat? Is it cold because it's dead? 100 ways to secretly show your sexy side.
じゃない。
I needed to hide this too, but I had so many of them now I was running out of room on the top shelf. When I tried to force it in, a mountain of old papers came falling out. Damn it, no room, huh? What's this? Oh, the new Gen Madness. Oh, it was an old scrapbook about the murders that had occurred 6 years ago in Shibuya. I'd bought it from Gensan too, come to think of it. I'd already scanned it, but had forgotten to throw out the original. How could I, of all people, be so lax with information? I just had to bundle it up with the rest of my collection. My eyes lingered for a second on the page. Come to think of it. I quickly ran over to my PC. I opened the files on the case that I'd been looking for. My words were a whisper. I looked back at the scrapbook, then compared it to the data on the PC. There was no doubt. I kept looking at it, and it kept saying the same thing. But this? If my hypothesis was right. Strange sumo stickers increasing in Shibuya. I really like the, it's so well done. The kind of, they make it look like I want to take this scroll, like this scrolling bar, and I want to scroll it down. It looks so accurate to what, like, a desktop computer would look like. Okay, lately, stickers with the face of a sumo wrestler on them have been appearing around Shibuya, commonly known as sumo stickers. Nobody knows who's putting them up or why. Everything about them is shrouded in mystery. I started seeing them on signs and guardrails all over Shibuya 5 or 6 years ago. There are a lot of other stickers put up by graffiti artists, but Shibuya in particular has a huge number of these sumo stickers. Some have speculated they're a message from a terrorist group, or perhaps a cult, but as of now there's nothing more than a hypothesis. When asked about the stickers, a 41-year-old man who worked at a Jinan Shibuya hair salon said, "They're creepy. I wish whoever it was would stop destroying the Shibuya landscape. Sometimes residents will take them down only to see them reappear later." Shibuya City Hall says, quote, "We are continuing our community outreach efforts to help stop these stickers from being put up, but also there are no plans to use city funds to remove the stickers. Police have said that placing these stickers on public property is a misdemeanor, but it's extremely difficult to prosecute without catching someone in the act of doing so. They have no current plan for dealing with the stickers either. The citizens of Shibuya are going to be stuck with them for a while, it seems." Alright, so I can scroll. Oh, okay. There we go. Like, it really looks like a proper message board. At first I saw one 2 years ago. I've been seeing them everywhere. It feels like there are even more lately. There was one under the escalator at the Hikariwo. How the hell did it get down there? Like, even the pictures look so legit. I saw that one too. It's crazy. I always feel sick when I see that face. I once threw up when I saw one of the stickers. Shit sucks. Whoever puts them up needs to FOAD. I heard if you scribble on top of one of them, the sumo wrestler curses you. Anyone else notice it's almost impossible to get the damn things off? Here's the thing too, is like, don't they have cameras everywhere? Wouldn't it be easy to catch the people doing it? Stop upping these things, Anon. There's a shit ton of them if you image search. Alright, time for your meds, Grandpa. Somebody make a Deluode map that lists all their locations. You'll be at it for years. So if you go to Shibuya, you get stare raped by sumo wrestlers, right? I don't understand the sluts that go to Shibuya to enjoy that. They should just put up a bunch of cute anime girl stickers instead, like Hanona or Seraton. Hey, Seraton, that's Seraton. That's the girl from Blood, what's it called again? Why have I already forgotten what it's called? The anime. Blood Tune? Okay, I feel pressure coming from Ryogoku. This is my prophecy until you. Someday we will see a sumo judge sticker. True dat.
この時はまだ力士シールはごく一部で話題になっているくらいのものでしかなかった。一体誰が予想できる？こんな気味の悪いシールが後に世界を揺るがす大事件のきっかけになるだなんてこと。
んで、これが今月の7日に起きた事件の週刊誌の特集の画像。
7日ってニコニア生放送中の公開自殺か。読んだよ、その記事。
自殺と決まったわけじゃないけどな。それにネットではこっちみんなって言い方が主流になってきてる。で、これがその生放送の映像。
それも見た。つうか一緒に見ただろ
う。で、これがその現場の建物。 尾上が昨日さらに追加してきた。
それも知ってるって。
で、これがその部屋の中。
は？うっそ、お前撮ったの？いつ？てかどうやって？
Until then, Itoi had been disinterestedly pointing his camera at the colorful decorations in the hallway, but this got his attention. Of course it did. No one else had seen these pictures yet.
先週末な、現場向かいのカラオケボックスの5階の部屋から見えるんだよ。
マジで？
この5階から。
You could always count on him to be interested when it came to new information.
で、何？お前一人で入ったのか？
は？
いやいや、カラオケボックスに。人から？
仕方ないだろ。別に恥ずかしいことじゃない。それに歌ったわけじゃないから、正確には人からとは言わない。
To be honest, I was a little embarrassed. The guy at the counter, who was probably just a part-timer, had stared at me suspiciously. Maybe I'd attracted his attention by coming in during the middle of the day in my uniform, and since I'd never been there before, he made me fill out a membership paperwork. I didn't know how to do it, so it took a long time. And actually, I'd never been to a karaoke place before in my life.
よし、ここはオッケー。次行こうぜ。
めんどくさいな。
We went over to the gym from the second floor hallway. It was filled with students laughing over who knows what. The whole school was getting ready for the culture festival next week. This year's festival was supposed to be a big one. Hekiho Academy was the first private high school built as part of the restoration efforts. I was like, this school looks really fancy. So it was attracting a lot of attention. Alright, a private academy in Utagawacho, Shibuya. Hekiho I don't know how to pronounce a couple of things here, I'm sure. It's a mid-sized academy composed of both a middle school and high school with over 1,000 students in total. Its construction was proposed as part of the reconstruction project after the November 2009 Shibuya earthquake, and in April 2012 it was completed. The school is small but it's well equipped with brand new state-of-the-art facilities, and the students generally love it. The middle school is located right next to the high school. One reason why everyone was so excited for the school fair was the school's lax rules with lots of clubs and activities. But the biggest reason was the Shibuya Peace and Restoration Festival 2 months from now. 2 months from now, on November 6th, would mark 6 years since the Shibuya earthquake. The 5-year anniversary fair last year had affected the whole town. And since the school was in Shibuya too, it would include us. We were just a simple high school, but now our culture festival was being treated as a prelude to the big one. Supposedly, there'd be TV cameras filming the day of the event.
うわ、あのパチモンの着ぐるみ大丈夫かよ。つかなんで今来てんだ？
Itoi turned his camera toward a group of people pretending to be pro wrestlers. Itoi and I were in the newspaper club, and it was our job to record the festivities. The principal had ordered that all clubs were to participate in the culture festival, and recording the festivities was our way of getting by without having to do much work. Recording videos and taking photos was my hobby, and more than anything, it seemed like the way that would demand I burn the fewest calories. I couldn't see myself participating in any of the usual festival nonsense like the baseball team's fried baseball ice cream stand, which was probably just regular fried ice cream in a ball. Or the Pro Wrestling Research Club's mascot pro wrestling, or even the seance that the Mystery Club and Fortune Telling Club were putting on together.
暇なんだろ。
ヒゲを引っ張んなってもげる。
はあ、これ触覚じゃないの？
どう思うよ。触覚だとしたらもいだ方がゆるキャラっぽくないか？
え、何？私、そのくだらない質問に答えなきゃダメ？
くそ、リア充。
Oh gosh. Man, the newspaper club seems a little just full of people who have a superiority complex.
おい、リア充をバカにするなよ。僕だってリア充だ。
Are you a normie? Oh man, it's funny, this is so the opposite. Like this guy, Takuru has some similarities to Takumi, but Takumi would never call himself a normie. He dropped it. That thing's expensive.
おい、どういうことだ。苦しい。カメラ。裏切ったのか。レベル下がったか。いつ彼女なんて作りやがった。
あ？できてないよ。彼女なんて。それよりカメラ。
何？
I slipped out of Itoi's grasp and picked up the camera. Looks like it's safe. Good. I relaxed and handed the camera back to Itoi.
まったく、しっかりしろよ。僕らはあいつらと違って状況だろ。一石舞踏か。
Alright, someone on the right side of the digital or information divide. A right-sider has the necessary skills and environment to make use of information and communications technology, such as the internet, allowing them to quickly find, share, and receive high-quality information.
いいか。リア充ってのは2005年あたりから使われ出した言葉で、リアル、つまり現実が充実している連中の総称だ。最初は対義語としてネト銃が挙げられることが多かったけど、その境目はもうほとんどない。
I love how that seemed as a bad thing, being a normie.
当たり前になったからな。
It's like being just like having a fulfilled life. I know it's probably been twisted into something. Basically, normie is someone who has a boyfriend or a girlfriend and is just, well, they're normal.
当初は友達がいるだけでリア充と呼ばれていたけど、次第に恋人がいることがリア充の条件になっていった。だがこれも変わりつつある。昨今のリア充は本当の意味で現実が充実しているかどうか、つまりやりたいことができているかどうかで判断されるんだ。そういう意味で僕はリア充。
Okay, gotcha.
だから暇に任せてふざけているあいつらはリア充なんかじゃないんだよ。言葉は正しく使え。
Seriously, he needs to be careful. Just being a wrong-sider by itself is a sin these days. After I finished my lecture, I saw that Itoi was staring at me wordlessly. What, did he not understand? I'd walked him through the entire etymology.
宮代、
なんだよ。
お前はリア充じゃないよ。言葉は正しく使おうな。
Huh?
なぜだ。
リア充はそんなこと言わない。
That's a good counter. Yeah.
なんでだ。それに補強するなら女子の知り合いもいるんだぞ。もちろん男も。
Well, I mean, yeah, he's got that over, you know, the protagonist of Chaos Head. At least he can talk to women. He has someone, I guess he'd consider at least a childhood friend. He could talk to her normally. So he's got that going for him.
だから、リア充はそんなこと言わないんだよ。
理由はなんだ。理由はさらに付け加えるならな。
I quickly swallowed my words.
ファッションの勉強だってしているんだ。
I'd read the new issue of Cool Cat before I put it away. There was an article in it called Utsunomiya's Fashion Leader. I thought it looked pretty good. Except it would be very, what's the word I'm thinking of? It'd be very dated because they said like they stopped running those magazines in the 2000s, so this would be stuff from the 80s and 90s. If I could wear that stuff, I'm sure.
ん？なんだよ。
なんでもない。とにかく僕はな。
ああ、わかったって。次行こうぜ。
As he walked away, I turned my eyes toward the group of mascot pro wrestlers.
わかった。じゃあもう全員で同じ着ぐるみにしようぜ。
ああ、戦隊もの風だ。色分けしようよ。私イエロー。
その方が受け取れるか。でも予算は？
あんたの小遣いがあるじゃん。
バカじゃないの？
それか、体に直接塗るか。受け取れればいいんでしょ？
Hmm.
こっちは忙しいんだ。
おかえりなさいませご主人様ケロン。
可愛くなくね？もうちょっとどうにかなんね？
可愛くないとか言うな。てか別にウェイトレスって女子限定じゃなくてもいいじゃん。男子もやんなよ。
ゲロカエルンってあんな語尾で喋るキャラクターだったっけ？
Itoi had just finished recording the goings on in the classroom. Oh, alright.
どうでもいいよ。
Okay, so I was curious, like I did with Chaos Head, I am following a spoiler-free guide because I want to make sure that I do everything in the right order. Because there is a recommended order to do all of the endings. So they said for kind of like the baseline one, they recommend doing all positive delusions. So that is what I'm going to do. This was class 3-1, Itoi's and my class. Most of the class was busy with the Garo Froggy Cafe we were doing for the festival. Some people were ignoring the fuss and studying. Some of the otaku were reading light novels. Did they really think if they left the paper cover from the bookstore on it we couldn't tell it was a light novel? They were just trying their best to stay out of the way. Most people were happily making Garo Froggy decorations, or putting on Garo Froggy costumes and messing around. All the clubs had to participate in the festival, but so did all the classes. No one had told me, but evidently several months ago we decided to do a Garo Froggy themed cafe.
はっか、ゲロカエルンの声は女じゃん。
いやそうだけどさ、そこは文化祭のノリ的なあれでいいじゃん別に。
違うってな。
は？
Itoi tilted his head in confusion.
ねえねえ宮代。
え？
このゲロカエルンの着ぐるみさ、ちょっと着てみてくんないかケロン？
悪いな、俺たち今忙しいんだ。
あ、いや、いいよ。着るよ。
は？わあ、アンガと宮代、あんたならサイズぴったりかなって作ってる時から思ってたんだ。
Please let us see it. I want to see what it looks like on him. I managed to get the costume on without much trouble. I slipped the top part over my head. It was pretty hot inside. And since I could barely see anything, it felt really claustrophobic.
どう？ぴったり。ちょっと喋ってみ。
ゲロカエルンだ、ゲロ。
かわいい。ギューってしてあげる。
And then I felt something soft pressed against my arm.
ゲロカエルンも私のことギューってして。
Really? I slipped my arm around her like she asked me to.
あ、やん、お尻触んないの。ゲロカエルンのエッチ。
Hadn't I read something once about how you could hug all the girls you wanted if you put on a costume? At the time, I thought it was a bunch of crap. Did it really work? I was having the time of my life when...
おー、ゲロカエルンできたの？かわいい。私もムギュってしたい。あー、ずるい。私も。ダメ。ゲロカエルンは私だけのものなんだから。だったら私たち全員で一斉に抱きついちゃうってのは？あ、それいいかも。まあいっか。いいよね、ゲロカエルン。じゃあ行くよ。せーの。ゲロカエルン大好き。
I thought about telling Itoi about this, but knowing what a skirt chaser he was, he might actually take it seriously and really try to put the costume on. It was probably better not to tell him. I wouldn't want to see him sued for sexual harassment, and decided to get back on topic. I took out my Pokecom and showed it to Itoi. Or Pokecom? I like how instinctively I read it as
これ
Poke.
が今月の19日の事件の画像。
音漏れたんか。どれ？
Oh, that's the girl.
どこで拾った？
That's got to be the girl at the beginning, the one who was like part of the band, and she said she was going to do her solo thing. She was going to take off all of her makeup and stuff, and she was going to do, you know, do things the way she wanted to.
事件のまとめウィキに一瞬な。消される前に魚拓取った。
Alright, scraping, the process of extracting and saving data from a website on the internet, and wiki, a site that uses wiki software to compile information about a particular subject in an easy-to-read manner. Anytime the internet starts talking about something, you can be sure that people will start making a wiki for it. Wiki software is an online system for the creation and compilation of hypertext documents on a web server. The name comes from the Hawaiian phrase wiki-wiki, which means speedy. Is that true? Is that where, like, wiki... Oh. If that's true, that's interesting. I mean, it doesn't say fictional, so that might be correct.
あー、こっちの方がアングルいいな。なあ、さっきのカラオケのやつと合わせてニア道にアップさせてくれよ。
もう新聞部のオンラインストレージに上げてある。見やすいように加工して使ってくれ。
Alright, cloud storage, a type of web service that offers server-side storage space to users. This type of service is offered by multiple companies, both free and paid. The one used by Miyashiro and the newspaper club is the largest free service available, offering up to 7 gigabytes of space.
なんか
Oh my
最近
gosh,
再生数
so
がいまいち
many.
伸びないんだよな。この前俺一人で作った動画のタグにもカメラ仕事しろとかアングル大体合ってないとか書かれるし。
So many tips. Okay, tag. In this note, it refers to a word or key phrase that classifies a video on Nikonia. Is it Nikonia? Anyway, in addition to classification, it is also used to allow for easier searching of videos. For example, if a user searches for the tag "cameraman do your damn job," the user will find videos with that tag on them. There are many unique tags on Nikonia, such as "do your damn job," TL, DW, epic, a while blank appeared, funny ending, perfect timing, open my eyes, etc. Itoi looked really upset. Well, I knew how he felt. The Hekiho Academy newspaper club had been the first in the nation to upload a video version of the school paper to Nikonia. Our papers dealt with anything involving Shibuya. We'd done a special on the Shibuya restoration once that a local paper had written about. We won a special prize at a city journalism contest, and the video had received over 80,000 views despite being boring as hell. After that, though, I could understand being upset at the fact new videos dealing with goings-on in Shibuya weren't breaking 2 digits.
ああ、カメラ仕事しろのタグをつけたのは僕だ。あれアングルひどいぞ。
じゃーん、ゲットしてきた。おお、オリジナルじゃん。
疲れた。
A boyfriend and girlfriend walked in, evidently back from shopping. Their arms were full of Garo Froggy stuffed animals.
だから違うって。
は？いえ、だから何がだよ。
Itoi hadn't noticed then. I looked at my classmates who were already beginning to play with their new toys and said,
前も話したことあったろ。大半の中高生は日頃アクセスしているサイトで情報レベルが知れるって。
This was a personal theory of mine. Smartphones and poke comms had been a religion to the modern teenager, and the information they gained from these portable terminals had a huge influence on their lives. Pokecom, I assuming it could be Pokecom, but I'm just gonna say Pokecom, I guess. A tablet-style mobile device with a 7-inch high-definition screen. Its official name is Phone Droid, but it's been colloquially in Japan known as Pokecom, despite having nothing to do with the pocket computer that was released in the 1980s. Beginning in 2012, the Pokecom had gotten much more popular worldwide and is expected to someday replace smartphones. Offers multiple applications such as video calling, an internet browser, TV, games, microblogging apps, and a camera. It's said the option to make phone calls will be implemented soon as well. Some people only look at SNS as like Twippo, Rhine, and Facebook, others at @channel and Nikonia. Alright, here we have a few. SNS, short for Social Networking Service, a service that offers the opportunity to join a virtual society that exists on the internet, often used to refer to any site or application that allows a user to create a profile, send messages, connect to other users, and build a community. As of 2015, there are several hundred publicly available SNSs, and if you include all software that allows for basic communication between users, it becomes a truly incredible number. Over 60% of the Japanese population uses some kind of SNS, and it's said over half of them use more than one. It's considered normal for most people to use SNSs, and there are even some users who get so tired and burnt out from all the time they spend on them they quit the sites altogether. Facebook, fictional type of social networking service that requires the use of a user's real name. On this site, users create and publish profile pages that allow them to easily connect with others that share similar interests. As of 2015, there are around 1.4 billion users worldwide, making it the world's biggest social network. Rhine, a type of social networking service, it's an instant messaging application that can be used on smartphones or PCs. Users can communicate with other users for free via voice calls or texting as long as both users have the application installed. As of 2015, the service has over 400 million users. Twippo, a microblogging social networking service. The posts known as tweets are all limited to 140 full-width characters, such as Japanese characters, or 280 half-width characters, such as English letters. Following a user on Twippo will cause that user's tweets to appear on your timeline, and users can send private messages as well. As of 2015, there are nearly 300 million registered users. Some looked at all of those sites as well as the links they found there. And then some looked at all those things as well as their favorite celebrity blogs, the big at-channel aggregators, and then whatever humor site was popular at the moment. All these people were wrong-siders, and the scary thing was these days 9 out of 10 wrong-siders were teenagers. Gero Froggy launched 6 years ago as a cell phone strap, which got popular for reasons no one understood. And then lately, a combination of Gero Froggy memes on Twippo, as well as an amateur anime posted to Nikonia. If I remember right, it was a talking, dancing frog singing anime themes. Had created a fad, though I hated to use the word for something so stupid. It amazed me that people honestly believed the ribbit sounds made by the female actress in those videos were from the original. Or that the original was the stuffed animal that had come out recently and not the phone strap. My guess was they only got their information from Twippo.
それに男の場合はウェイトレスじゃなくてウェイターだって。
This was one of the reasons I joined the newspaper club. I didn't want to end up like them. Anyway.
宮代くん?
A girl, evidently the one in charge of the waitresses, was talking to me. Who is she again? Fujita-san? Fujimoto-san? I think there was a Fuji.
何田中さん
Tanaka, I was totally wrong.
さ、教室で流す映像のビデオ撮影のことなんだけどさ。
What is she talking about? Oh, right. They're going to make their own version of the Nikonia videos where they wear costumes and danced.
そのアップとかできるのかな？こうずっと同じで撮るんじゃなくて。
What, is she telling me what to do? I didn't volunteer to videotape it. You guys forced me. Well, it's better than being told to dance or make props myself. Of course, like, he sounds all tough in his head and then he's just like completely falters. He's gonna be like, okay.
そのフィックスじゃなくていろいろ動かせっていうことですか?
Yeah, this is getting a little bit of the Takumi vibes where it's just like stuttering and falling over himself. Okay, let's check the fix. A video recording term refers to the act of fixing a camera in a single place and recording without moving it. Oops.
フィックス？よくわかんないけど。
できますよ。
Yeah, of
ア
course.
ップでもなんでも。
本当？よかった。じゃあ本番までにどこをどう撮ってほしいかまとめて渡すから。
And then she fled. That surprised me. Don't scare me like that. I was so nervous, I was sweating a little. Itoe looked at me and sighed. What?
お前やっぱリア充じゃないわ。
What?
相変わらず慣れない相手だと挙取るし丁寧語だし。
しょうがないだろ。いきなりだったんだから。
And what's more, I made it a policy not to talk to anyone unless it was necessary. This was the first time in quite a while I'd spoken to any of my classmates but Itoe.
どうだった？
なんか自慢されてなかった？フィックスとかなんとか。
んだそれ。またうんちくか？
They'd already started to spread meaningless information. Stop it. Hearing whispers about me in the classroom brought back bad memories. I started to have a hard time breathing.
おい、大丈夫か？
I must have looked like I was in pain because Itoe was looking at me with concern on his face. I quickly nodded to show I was fine.
陰口は聞こえないように言えってのな。しかも自慢でもうんちくでもなんでもないっての。
別に気にしてないよ。藤田さんは
誰だよ。
田中さんは情弱なだけなんだから。
That's right. It wasn't worth worrying about. She was just ignorant. Itoy looked over at her other classmates who were having fun.
たく、オポチュニストが。
Obdurate? Uh-oh. What did that mean again? I knew that I'd heard it before. I ran a search on my Pocom, making sure not to let Itoi see. Obdurate. Stubbornly refusing to change out of a lack of pity or remorse. Ruthless.
そうだな。言い当ててると思う。みんなと同じ方向にひよってるだけだよ。
まったくな。
Itoi nodded, annoyed. Good. Looks like he didn't find out.
いつの時代もスクールカーストの底辺にいる俺らオタクは上部にいる方たちに話のネタを提供する運命なのか。
Social hierarchy, a natural ranking system that develops among humans in a group environment. In this case, it's referring to the one that is formed between students in a school environment. Although it's impossible to define all the factors that go into determining each student's standing, attractiveness and romantic experience are known to be major factors in giving one a high rank, while those with otaku hobbies as well as those who are shyer in nature tend to fall to the lower end. There are, of course, many people who possess attributes from both the upper and lower classes, and one's final position in the hierarchy is determined by the general opinion of the school. The hierarchy is most commonly divided into the upper class, preps, jocks, rich kids, the middle class, average Joes, and the lower class, nerds, otakus, shy kids. Hold it. The school's social hierarchy wasn't something I cared about, but...
おい、僕はオタクじゃないぞ。
またかよ。
またってなんだ。理屈に合わないことが気持ち悪いだけだ。一石。
God, he just sounds so... I'm sorry, I'm gonna keep saying this. He just sounds insufferable.
いい、ぶたなくていい。
オタクの定義は流動していて、当初あった悪いイメージは徐々に払拭されつつあるけれど、2015年現在でもアニメやらラノベやらゲームやらアイドルやらにハマっている人のことを指す場合が大半だ。
I thought I saw a boy reading a light novel turn toward me, but I didn't care.
僕はくだらないアニメやラノベは見ない。時間の無駄だ。
以前お前なんかのアニメを絶賛してなかったか？なんだっけ？ブラチュ？
くだらないアニメは見ないと言ったんだ。
It'd be wild if, like, because the ending of Chaos Head, from what I remember, it was kind of left vague about like what happened to everybody afterwards. So we've got a guy named Takuru who sounds a lot like Takumi. We've got the friend with pink hair, the only girl that he can talk to, really, it seems. What if this was like some weird, I don't know, like after the events of the earthquake and everything, what if like they almost were reincarnated or something as like different people, slightly different people? It's almost like a parallel world or something version of Takumi and Rimi into like these characters in this game. It's really out there, but I mean, like, it just makes me think of like Steins Gate and parallel worlds, like different versions of yourself in different timelines. Maybe.
素晴らしきかな我が人生や二人のベロニカとかの名画を検索しようとすらせずに同じようなアニメばっか見て。
Alright, The Double Life of Veronica, a joint production between France and Poland, directed by Krzysztof Kieślo... Oh gosh, oh my god, I'm not even have to say that. Chronicles the lives of two girls, both named Veronica, who were born in two different countries. The scene on the bus is a must-see, a masterpiece. My Wonderful Life, an American movie directed by Blank Capra and released in 1946. So obviously, like, this is the, oh my gosh. Like, that's what it's called? Like, It's a Wonderful Life or something like that? The film tells the story of the life of a man and the strange miracle he encountered on Christmas Eve. The climax of the movie, where the main character runs through the city, is truly unforgettable. In America, it's the quintessential Christmas movie, a timeless classic. And then The Double Life of Veronica. Oh gosh, which one is this one kind of a parody of? I'm blanking, man.
このアニメを見てないやつはにわかだとか言ったり。
わかったって。
数列都市や冬の庭とかの名著。ああ、いいよね。とか嘘ついて済ませてラノベばっか読んでいる。
Okay, The Fiends, a novella published in 1992 by Kazumi Yuki, depicts the relationship between three sixth-grade boys and a senior citizen who lives alone, translated into different languages all over the world, and adapted into a movie and stage play as well. A book that you'd want to read when you're the same age as the young boys. Transmutation City, a lengthy, hard science fiction novel written by Greg Morgan in 1994. The book is told from the perspective of a human who comes to live inside a virtual world, and it provides an extensive lens into his views on immortality. The detailed theories and their progression through the book make this novel a must-read.
そういう自分の好きな知識しか吸収しないやつを言うんだ。オタクっていうのは。
カメラオタクってなんか怪しいイメージあるよな。
別に人様に迷惑かけなければいいんじゃん。好きなんでしょ。うちだってジョニオタだし。
Stop it, please. More than anything. I don't want to be the same as you people. And then the door to the classroom flew open. A female student was looking in. She must have been in a hurry because she was a little out of breath. She brushed her long hair out of her eyes and was about to come inside.
どうしたの？
おお、女帝、ちょうどよかった。
The whole class started talking to her. So obviously she's gonna be one of the characters that's gonna be probably important to our group because she actually got a sprite. She was about to say something when her foot caught on one of the cables running across the room. And she suddenly tripped. And of course I catch her, right? And probably grab her boobs. I moved quickly. She staggered forward, but I grabbed her to keep her from falling. Her hair flew up and tickled my nose. It smelled good. And her body was very soft. Extremely soft, in fact. It felt kind of squeezable. What was I touching? Was any part of a person's body this soft? No, at least, nothing on a man's body was. Which meant, what was the softness?
宮代、お前とんでもない勇者だな。こんな大勢の前で堂々と女帝のおっぱいをもみもみするなんて。
Boobs.
あ、いや、これは事故だ。事故なんだ。
If that ever actually happened, she'd kill me for sure. Just thinking about it made my blood run cold. She almost tripped, but managed to keep her balance. She smiled a bit and took a deep breath. All the students around her, boys and girls alike, began to move. They surrounded her as if they were welcoming a long-lost family member.
ちょっと誰？こんなところにケーブル置きっぱなしにしたの。ごめんね。
女帝、大丈夫か？
Wait, what? Why was there no sound for her? Also, like, who unironically calls their fellow classmate an empress? She answered them with a smile. I felt like our eyes met. I looked away without thinking. Kurusu Nono, the first student council president of Heikiho Academy.
あのさ、うちの喫茶でキッチン側とそれ以外のこっち側のなんてのお客さんスペースってか。
Kurusu smiled a bit as she spoke. Wait, why? Okay, hold on. Why does she have no voice? Let me check something out here. This is really strange. Okay, that was so weird. So I checked the settings, and for some reason her voice was muted. Like, I did kind of go at the beginning before I started the game to just, like, fiddle around with the voice like how loud it is. I don't remember turning it off. And the weird thing is during the flashback, or sorry, the delusion, she had a voice. I don't know. Anyway. Okay.
そうそう、ホールだ。そのさ、間を仕切る暗幕の数の調整ってワックンしてくれた？
調整？涌井先生が増田くんにそう言ったの？
え、聞いてない？
ということは絶対やってないでしょうね。わかった。私から言っておく。
大丈夫？なんか女帝、先生たちから目つけられてんじゃん。てか、怖がられてんじゃん。
生徒会長なんて生徒側から学校側に無理難題を押し付けるためにいるものでしょ。大丈夫。なけなしの権力を振りかざすから。あと増田くん、女帝はやめて。
ほう、サンキュー、女帝。
あなたね。
Or at least it's just one person that does that. Most of the boys in the class, oh, never mind, call Kurisu Empress as a joke. I keep wanting to call her Kurisu, and I'm just like, Kurisu. She got the name after becoming a hero to her fellow students through gallant deeds, like putting an end to the principal's endless homeroom speeches. Not to mention bringing more types of bread to the school store.
のーのー、着ぐるみありがとね。ぴったりだった。田中、それ私が試着した時、最後までファスナー上がらなかったんだけど。地雷？呼び込み禁止にするからね。あー、ごめん、嘘。ピチピチだから。これは割とマジで。いや、てか、どうせ胸で引っかかったんでしょ？冗談。期待してるから笑い取ってよ。
She sure was popular. She even knew the names of students in other classes. The top of the school's social hierarchy. That was the first phrase that came to mind. And then...
タクル、話があるの。ちょっと来てくれる？
Kurusu walked all the way over to me and Itoi. Her expression was so kind, it seemed that she had to be putting on some kind of act. I could see that all the people who'd been surrounding her were staring at me.
女帝、カメラっ子に何の用だ？友達なのか？
知らないの？ナノは。
はあ、マジで？
I ignored my classmates' whispered and focused on Kurusu. Her smile seemed fake, as if it had been plastered onto her face. Are they like... No, they have different last names. I was like, it might be one of those things where it's just like, it's actually like his sister or something. Could be a stepsister, but I don't know. Whenever she smiled like that, it meant she wasn't in a good mood. Like, he seems to know her very well, so maybe it is a thing like their stepbrother, stepsister, maybe also childhood friends. And also the fact he has no problem talking to her at all. Maybe she's also a member of the newspaper club too? Her cheeks twitched a little. Crap. Kurusu didn't like it when I called her by her last name.
ちょっと来てくれる？物質。
I could sense a dark aura forming around her, hardly befitting a so-called empress.
来てくれる？
She's so close to me.
行こうか。物質。なあ、宮代。
Itoi couldn't handle the terror. It didn't look like I could talk my way out of this one. Seeing no other choice, I nodded and stood up.
クルス。
Gah.
クルス。ちょっと。
グラウンドに出す屋台のコンロの数でしょ？やっぱり一つの屋台につき一つで統一する。
いや、それは。おう。
悪いけど例外はなし。校長に掛け合ったけどダメだったから。人数が多くて不満があるところは私が後で直接説明に行く。
了解。いや、じゃなくて
なんで持ち場離れて。
クルスだから忙しかったら落ち着いたらでいいって。
もう終わったから。ごめんね川原くん、急ぎなの。
Her tone was gentle, but brooked no argument as she hurried to the club room.
宮代、またお前か。今度は何したんだ。
Kawahara-kun cut her off. I didn't know his first name. He was in the same class as Itoe and I, and he was the vice president of the student council.
いやいい。言わなくても分かってる。また例のくだらない記者ごっこだろ。
I knew why he was giving me a hard time. He didn't like the fact Kurusu was spending time with me.
別に
何？
川原くんに迷惑はかけてないと思いますけど。
かかってるんだよ。クルスの時間が割かれると同じ生徒会の俺たち全員にな。
I happened to glance down at Kawahara-kun's belt. The fastener seemed to be broken. That gave me an idea. Is he gonna pants him? I yanked down on his pants as hard as I could. Just like I thought, they came straight off. His underwear was plainly visible.
白ブリーフかよ。うわー！宮代、お前何するんだ。
君があんまりうるさいから。
ふざけるな。
川原くん、いいから早く吐きなさい。みっともないでしょ。
みっともないってそんな。
ほらみんな見てる。
All the students around us were staring at him and laughing. His face quickly turned red.
ひどい。ひどすぎる。
He pulled up his pants and ran away with tears in his eyes. He looked absolutely miserable. Just imagining that made me feel better. I'd never do something so childish in real life, though. Yanking down someone's pants if they ticked you off was the kind of thing a third grader would do. I was above that. I knew that the best way to deal with someone like Kawahara-kun was to just ignore them.
お前、小中と不登校だったんだって？
This is really sounding like frickin' Takumi. Like, this is making me think maybe this is some weird parallel version of Takumi. I could feel my legs tense up. I stopped. My face got hot, and without thinking, I glared accusingly at Kurusu. She quickly shook her head.
川原くん、急いでいるから。
But he kept on staring at me. I felt like he was grinning a little. It pissed me off. But there was nothing I could say. I did the best I could to ignore him and turn away. I ignored what sounded like a little laugh and hurried to the club room.
違うからね。
The second the three of us were alone in the club room, her expression changed. The smile plastered on the student council president's face disappeared. This was who she really was.
何が？
川原くんが言ってたこと。私が彼に言ったわけじゃないから。
別に気にしてないよ。
嘘。
Really, it didn't. Everything about me was different than it used to be.
まあまあ。で、
So she is, okay, so she is vice president of this newspaper club. That's how, okay. Kurusu sighed and changed the subject.
タクル、あなたちゃんとご飯食べてるの？少し痩せたんじゃない？
Huh? Where was this coming from?
これからどんどん寒くなってくるでしょ？住んでるところの防寒対策とかちゃんとしてるんでしょうね。
Ugh, crap, she's in nag mode.
進路調査、結局就職で提出したんですって？ 進学で提出しなさいって言ったのに、勉強できないわけじゃないんだから。確かに今からだと厳しいけど、受験なら私が面倒見るってこれも前に言ったでしょ。
調べたのというより、話ってそれ？
どうなの？ちゃんと食べてるの？
Like, this seems like more than just a situation with... And now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, she kind of looks like Takami's little sister as well. Like, what in the world is happening? Like, this seems like more intrusive than just the vice president, like someone that's in your club asking you if you're eating okay, asking about your living conditions, asking like, you know, what are you gonna do after school?
食べてるよ。大丈夫だって。
I waved my hand to bring the conversation to a close. It just makes me think of like Takami's sister, who is like always come by and like do the survival checks and make sure that he had food. I didn't want this to end the way it used to, with a 6-hour lecture about how every aspect of my life was wrong, followed by hard labor as my punishment. Kurusu looked like she still had a lot more to say, but a moment later...
あなた、先週の金曜日、学校サボったでしょ。
Huh? Oh, so that's what all this was about.
サボったよ。別に問題ないだろ。
あるに決まってるでしょ。どこで何してたの？ストレージにアップした画像、あれを撮りに行ってたんじゃないの？
Damn it, I figured that would be it. She was right. The pictures I'd taken from the karaoke box were from last Friday when I'd skipped school. I'd started staking out the place early that morning and waited for the manager of the condo building to open the curtains.
苦労したんだ。でもおかげで警察以外まだ誰も見てない現場の画像を撮れた。
こういう事件ばかり追いかけるのはやめなさいって前から言ってるでしょ。
Kurusu was the vice president of the newspaper club and had been opposed to Itoi and my journalistic ethos for a long time. Okay, so maybe she's not related to us or anything at all. It could just be she's just very nosy. If she's a student council president, right? Like, she's kind of in people's business. We'd spent most of our time investigating crimes in Shibuya, stuff like the attacks on the homeless people that had been flooding the city ever since the earthquake, and urban legends about a company involved in the rebuilding who'd put up tons of security cameras all around the city, and a serial arson case where the culprit had never been caught, and now these strange deaths. For her part, Kurusu said a student paper shouldn't be investigating crimes. She wrote normal, sincere articles and made normal, sincere videos. The video about the Shibuya recovery efforts that had won a prize had been mostly her work.
タクル、今回あなたおかしい。学校をサボってまで事件を追うなんて今までなかったでしょ。
That was true, but the reason why was obvious, right? I was lucky enough to have this huge mystery right in front of me.
今回に関しては学校をサボるのもしょうがないよ。
なぜ？
だって新聞部を立ち上げてから初めて起こった渋谷での大きな事件じゃないか。こんな美味しいネタ。
美味しい？
That face was bad news. It was scary. Itoi was right next to me, so I grabbed him and held him tight.
おい、縦にすんなって。え、縦なの？てか副部長、何その顔？
美味しいですって？人が死んでるっていうのに？
違います。すいません。
Stay away from me. I really can't handle this.
すんなって。ちょっと待って、マジで縦なの？やばい、やばい。
That face was seriously bad news. The Empress was scary enough that she could send a demon running in terror. I'd never even met a demon either. That's just how scary she was.
もう一度言ってくれる？よりによってあなたが人が死んで美味しいですって？
Oh shit. I needed to find some way to stop her. And then I felt the wind rush by my ears. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Come on. And at the worst possible time, the wind blew through the room. Kurusu didn't even have time to hold down her skirt. My eyes were locked with Kurusu's as I heard the sounds from the open window. I hadn't even realized it was open until then. There was a tennis court on top of the special use building. That was probably the tennis team out there. I needed to say something. Was I supposed to tell her I hadn't seen anything?
副部長白なんですね。イメージ通りというか。
There we go. Let him say something stupid and then it takes the pressure off me. Idiot, are you trying to get yourself killed?
私の下着の色が何色か今関係あんのか
I flinched at the sudden noise. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And then I realized. I was sure that was the sound of Kurusu kicking the wall, or maybe the sound of her murdering Itoe, but I was wrong. It was coming from deeper inside the room.
あの子は
Oh, and there's the game that Takumi used to play.
和樹来てたの？和樹？そうか、ヘッドホン。
Kurusu sighed and pulled off the headphones that Kazuki always wore.
円数2でイラついたからって壁を殴るのはやめなさい。何度も言ってるでしょ。
Alright, ESO2, short for Empire Sweeper Online 2, the sequel to the MMORPG that once boasted the highest player count in all of Japan, Empire Sweeper Online. Like its predecessor, the game has been very well received. While the vast majority of users have moved on to ESO2, the inability to transfer character data from the first game has caused a small number of veteran users to remain on the original ESO. The game takes place in the medieval Europe-inspired fantasy world of Baselard, where countless adventures are just waiting to unfold.
壁へこんでるじゃないもう。
Kazuki Hana, the only first-year student in the newspaper club. But forget her, this was my chance. As Kurusu was rubbing the red marks on Kazuki's hand, I said,
とにかく僕は事件を追う。発見があったんだ。もしかしたら大きな手がかりになるかもしれない。
Kurusu glared at me for a moment, but...
おお、マジか。よし、すぐ準備する。聞かせてくれ。ぜひ聞かせてくれ。
Itoe hurried over to the club's computer, desperate for any chance to escape his doom. I stared back at Kurusu for a moment, and then...
PC 立ち上げて、ストレージの画像プリントアウトしてくれ。
了解だ。
Itoe's voice was louder than it needed to be as he turned on the computer.
もう殴らないこと。いい？うん。
Maybe she took pity on poor Itoe because she didn't say anything else, but she still crossed her arms and glared at us as she leaned against the wall. It looked like she was at least going to hear me out. Or maybe this was just her way of making sure I didn't escape.
お前、後で飯をおごれよ。
なんで？やだよ。
盾にしやがって気まずすぎんだろ。こんなもん10-0の巻き込まれ事故じゃねえか。
それは謝るけど、でも今回はまだマシだ。手が出なかったから。
え？手って副部長？
I nodded. Kurusu was the girl that everyone looked up to, but she was actually very short-tempered. It would take me more than 5 fingers, but less than 10, to count the number of times she'd slapped me. When I told him that...
マジか。そんな、なんていうか、ありなの？そんなことする女子高生本当にいんのか？ヒスか S っ子手前じゃん。
Alright, dominatrix, a term for a woman with a sadistic personality who enjoys inflicting physical or psychological pain on others, extremely dangerous. Crazy bitch, a term used to refer to a short-tempered woman who can't control her emotions.
ねえ、あなた方。 陰口は聞こえないように言えって言われないの？
The nearly crazy bitch didn't even bother looking at us as she spoke.
いや、そのセリフを言ったことはあるんだけどね。それもついさっき教室で。
そう。
And then she fell silent. She was scary as hell. It felt like if I moved, she'd kill me.
おごりだ。決定だ。大盛りにデザートだ。異論は認めん。
高校じゃん、今のは。
Actually, it was 100% his fault for not keeping his mouth shut.
なあ、
What?
見たか？見たよな。
見てないよ。
That was a lie. I'd seen it. They were white. I glanced at Kurusu outside of the corner of my eye. I guess that really was just what you'd expect. Still, I'd only gotten a glimpse. It was entirely possible I'd been mistaken. If I burned the image into my brain now, maybe the next time something like this happened, I'd be able to react more quickly. So I prayed for more good luck. If it ever did happen again, I swore I'd react as a right-sider should. A right-sider wouldn't panic over something as insignificant as seeing a girl's underwear. In a situation like that, it was critical that you stayed calm. When she heard Itoi turn on the printer, Kazuki trotted over like she usually did. That online game addict had the best computer skills of anyone in the club. Okay, addict primarily used to refer to someone with an uncontrollable addiction to a certain substance, usually an illegal drug. However, it's recently come to describe people who spend so much time on a particular hobby that it interferes with their daily lives. Some examples include video game addicts and Twippo addicts. Alright, so do another positive one. Whenever she was around, it was her job to run searches and organize the information on the PC, but...
手伝わなくていい。この件については部の活動と認めてないから。
Kazuki gave us a questioning look.
そうなんだ。
Kazuki just said, like she always did, and walked away.
ほら、カズキ、まだ手赤いわ。もっとさすってあげるから。
Kazuki obediently walked toward Kurusu. Oh my gosh, Kurusu took her hands and rubbed them gently, like a mother would.
痛かったでしょ？どうしてそんな無茶をするの？どう？まだ痛い？痛いの痛いの、飛んでけー。カズキ、どうしたの？急に抱きついて。もう甘えん坊さんなんだから。あ、もしかして私がしばらく部室に来られなかったから寂しかったの
Is she going to say words at all?
ほら、私の目を見てちゃんと答えてね。寂しかったんでしょ？違う？照れちゃって可愛いのね。ごめんね、寂しい思いさせて。でも安心して、今日はずっと和樹と一緒にいてあげるから。
Please tell me she will actually say words at some point.
私もあなたと一緒にいられて嬉しい。手の痛みはもう引いた？まだ？じゃあとっておきのおまじない。
Kazuki watched with a look of ecstasy in her eyes as Kurusu softly kissed her fingers. It felt like I was seeing something I shouldn't, so I looked away.
和樹の指、細くてとっても綺麗。
おい、何ぼんやりしてるんだ？宮代？
いや、別に。
I chased the stupid idea out of my mind. Kurusu was nice to everyone, even girls like Kazuki who couldn't communicate with others. Of course, in reality, Kurusu and Kazuki had never done anything like that, and they never would. Kazuki put her headphones on and went back to the corner of the room. She started slamming keys again. I never did know how to talk to her. Actually, it felt like it had been forever since I'd even spoken to her. If you could even call that a conversation, that is. She'd been part of the newspaper club for 6 months, and all I knew about her was that she liked games, knew a lot about computers, and hated talking. In the end, Itoi printed out the pictures, so I took them and went in front of the bulletin board before Kurusu changed her mind. If Kurusu was going to listen, it was probably better to start at the beginning. She didn't seem interested in the cases, but if I ignored her and it made her even madder, even using Itoi as a shield wouldn't be enough to save me.
今僕らが追っている事件は2つ。まず1つ目は今月の7日に起きたニコニア生放送公開自殺事件。通称場所はここ、神南。事件の内容は名前の通りニコニア動画で生放送していた男が放送中に突然自殺した。厳密に言うと完全に自殺と決まったわけじゃないんだけど、死んだ時の状況からそう言われてる。名前は大谷優馬、21歳。俺氏、未来が見えてしまう件についてっていう預言者もどきみたいな放送を定期的にやって結構アクセス数を稼いでいたニア生主。
So of the ones that we know so far, there are people that seem to get weird abilities and became popular because of them, and now they're being killed for it. It's almost like they got these abilities, but with it, it's almost like a curse. It's like eventually you're going to die if you get them.
で、その状況だけど、まず放送中に大谷氏はコメントを設ける時間をとって一旦カメラ前から姿を消す。その後ドアがノックされて誰かが来たらしい音をわずかだけどマイクが拾ってる。聞き取れないけど何かを話す声も。そしてカメラ前に戻ってくると右腕が半分なくなってた。細かく切断されて自分が持ってきた皿の上に乗ってたんだ。
It looks like it's happened quite close to their school as well.
そしてその指を自分で食べた。まるで痛みを感じていない素振りで。
Kurusu's expression changed a little. She probably hadn't known that. The suicide had been big news even on TV, so she'd probably seen it there, but the details had been so horrific that the news didn't mention them. But those details could be found anywhere on the internet. It was only a matter of time before someone started putting it all together. The video itself had even started to get around.
そして少し経ってからいきなり苦しみ出して死亡した。見ていた人は事件として発覚するまでいたずらか何かだと思っていたみたい。
出血性ショック死な。警察の発表でもそうなってたし、混沌するまでの時間を考えても間違いない。
So we know exactly how his played out, but the other girl, the musician, we don't really know too much about what happened after she heard the knock. Itoi added, Itoi knew more about this stuff than I did. He was a fan of bizarre murders, and he'd read 10 times as many killers' diaries and non-fiction crime books as I had.
何らかの理由で精神が錯乱した上での自殺って見解が濃厚らしいけど、警察は自殺の直前に部屋を訪ねてきた誰かを探しているらしい。もしかしたら自殺幇助や自殺教唆の疑いがあるんじゃないかって。
In Japan, if you saw someone trying to kill themselves and didn't intervene, it wasn't a crime unless the police could prove you wanted them to die. But aiding in a suicide, or encouraging someone to commit suicide, was illegal. That meant the police were probably looking for whoever met Ootani just before his death. Kurusu was silent, but she was looking at the board and seemed to be listening. It seemed safe. On to the next case, then.
2つ目は19日に起きた事件。死体の状況から音漏れ炭っていう通称がついてる。場所はここ。
Okay, so that happened quite a ways away, so it's not like it all happened in a small area.
名前は高柳桃音、 20歳。ニコニアの歌ってみたの歌い手で、最近ネットで有名になってきてるアニメソングのコピーバンドのボーカル。復興祭のステージで歌うことも決まってた。バンドの派手な衣装を着たまま一人でストリートライブもしていて、晴れの日は毎日決まった場所、決まった時間で演奏していたらしい。その日はいつもの場所にかなり遅刻して現れてライブを始めた。だけど何か様子がおかしかった。声が小さくていつもの感じじゃなかったらしい。そして結局ライブの最中に死亡した。こっちも失血死。
Oh, she'd been stabbed in the
ライブを
stomach.
始める前からお腹を死傷していたんだ。妙なのがやっぱり遺体の状況で。糸、再生してくれ。
Alright, have I been saying Ito? It's just Ito? Ugh, I had a feeling I was saying his name wrong. Ito tapped a few keys on the computer's keyboard, and a moment later...
マジでマジで
死んでるって、マジで死んでるって。救急車呼べって。
Kurusu looked confused when she heard the sound. Evidently, she wasn't able to make it out.
ああ、そっちじゃなくて渋谷ニュースが音声いじってアップしてくれた方。
ああ、そっちだよな。と。
マジでマジで
死んでるって、マジで死んでるって。救急車呼べって。
ありがとう。ゆっくりしていってね。ありがとう。ゆっくりしていってね。ありがとう。ゆっくりして。
Her expression changed. She must have been able to hear it this time.
ありがとう。ゆっくりしていってね。常連のお客さんによれば、いつも彼女はこの一言からストリートライブを始めていたんだって。
Okay, a phrase often used at the start of videos in Niconia originates from a piece of ASC2 art.
ニアドユーザーだからな。なんでも歌ってみたの歌い手の中では彼女のライブが一番だって最近評判だったらしいぞ。
Kurusu seemed to be ignoring me and Ito. She was staring at the computer screen that was the source of the sound.
今のは
悲鳴は死体を発見したお客さんたちのもの。動画で撮っていた人がいたんだ。で、今のは高柳さん自身の声で。お腹に埋め込まれていた小型のスピーカーから聞こえてきたんだ。
Embedded. Oh shit. So like they stab her and did they stick it in her stomach? Kurusu seemed confused, so Ito interjected.
つまりその日のライブは最初から録音されたものだったんだよ。
後で発見された証拠によると、
Oh
彼女は
wow.
コンビニで売ってるカッターで自分で自分の腹を裂いて Bluetooth のスピーカーを埋め込んだらしい。
Damn. Okay, Bluetooth, a type of wireless communication standard used by digital devices, allows for communication via radio waves in a range between a few meters to a few dozen meters, often used for wireless mice and keyboards for computers and mobile devices.
ガムテープで止血とも呼べない適当な応急処置をした後、着ている服と衣装でその傷を隠してライブを始めたんだ。最初は録音した自分の声に合わせてギターを弾いていたらしいんだけど、途中からは歌声だけになった。それからはうつむきっぱなしだったみたいだから、その時にはすでに死亡してたんじゃないかな。だけどお客さんは様子がおかしいとは思いながらも気づかずにずっと聴き続けて、彼女のポケットに入れていた携帯音楽プレイヤーが傷から流れた血液で壊れたのか、最初からそういう設定だったのか。とにかくさっきの音声トラックがリピート再生されるまで死んでいるとは気づかなかった。
Kurusu's face was a mixture of confusion and discomfort. Of course it was. She'd never heard of something like this before. I couldn't hold back my excitement.
な、すごいだろ。
Instead of agreeing, Kurusu's brow furrowed. She probably didn't realize it, but she'd wrapped her arms around herself. What was wrong? Was that a little too creepy?
でここまでは単にこれまでの事件の整理だろ。発見ってのは
Oh, yeah, he's right. I used the computer to print out a series of pictures.
当然だけど両方とも事件の目的は分からない。今のところ唯一の不審人物である大谷氏の部屋を訪ねてきた人間が何者で何を考えて何を話したのかも見当がつかない。でも僕はこの妙な事件はまだ続くと思う。被害者の共通点からの推測でしかないけどね。
は？マジか？
Atoy leaped out of his chair in shock. Well, I couldn't blame him.
共通点に関しては散々話し合ったろ。分かったのは渋谷に住んでることとニア道のユーザーだったこと。あとはまあ2人ともある程度の知名度があって自殺した状況が異常だってことくらいか。でもそんなもんじゃそれ以上のことは何も見えてこなかっただろう。
気づかないか？別の共通点。
I pointed toward the bulletin board as I spoke. Atoy looked really annoyed.
偉そうにしよってからに。そもそもこっちの気を引くようにプリントアウトしてるやつはなんだ？
Hehehe. One of the best parts of finding something like this was seeing the angry look on his face. Well, it was only yesterday that I'd found it myself.
じらさなくていいから何を見つけた
I
の？
wonder if it's like, are they connected somehow to the new gen murders? Kurusu beckoned for me to go on. No matter what she said, after hearing all this, she probably wanted to know what came next. Oh, it finished printing. Kazuki suddenly stood in front of me. She offered me the printed image without a word.
ありがとう。
Then she offered me something else. A lollipop.
くれるの？
She nodded.
どうも。
Kazuki seemed to be communicating in her own unique way. She walked over to the bulletin board and tapped the data printouts on the two cases with her fingers, so she like figured it out immediately.
カズキ、どうした？
She did it again. I saw the part she was pointing at and nodded.
そう。
So she's
日付だよ。
she's quick on it.
19日。
Is it? Is like, were those the same dates that like some of the new gen murders happened?
共通点。9月7日と
I'm guessing that's it.
9月19日。渋谷で発生した異常な事件。わかるだろ？
I kept looking at Ito. Usually he'd be the one to pick up on this. A second later, he froze. He must have figured it out.
猟奇マニアのお前ならわかるだろ？
I pinned the images I just printed out onto the bulletin board's map.
9月7日集団ダイブ。9月19日妊娠男。
So based on that, you can kind of guess like when the next deaths are going to be happening.
9月29日貼り付け。10月10日ヴァンパイア。
Yeah, you definitely need to have played the first game to really like understand what the heck is going on here.
10月23日ノータリン。10月28日うまい手。11月4日ドキュンパズル。
ニュージェネレーションの狂気。
Alright, the name of a series of brutal serial killings that took place in Shibuya between September 7th and November 4th of 2009. The methods of murder were bizarre and entirely unorthodox, which led to its cult popularity among the youth of Shibuya. As a result, the mass media dubbed it the New Generation Madness. A total of 14 people died in all 7 incidents. Yep. 6 years ago, in 2009, a series of strange deaths that occurred just before the earthquake that struck Shibuya on November 6th. They became famous for the words left by the killer, "Whose eyes are those eyes?" They called the killings the New Generation Madness. The murders took place in Shibuya, but the whole country took an interest in them. At the time, I was in 6th grade, and just like a lot of people, I followed every new development on the internet.
日付が6年前の事件とぴったり一致してるんだ。事件も自殺っぽいっていう内容はともかく、猟奇的だという点で同じ。
偶然でしょ。
She seemed to be trying to force the words out of her throat. Kurusu was acting a little strange. Her arms clutched her torso even tighter.
副部長
Maybe it was because of all the creepy pictures she'd seen. Kurusu was clearly shaking. She tried her best to stop it as she spoke.
何でも関連づけて大きくしたがるのはやめなさい。2つたまたま一致しただけでしょ。
偶然かそうではないかはすぐにわかるよ。ニュージェネ第3の事件が起こったのは9月29日。つまり今日だ。
Oh, today? Oh shit.
もし今日渋谷でまた妙な事件が起こったら、その時は間違いない。偶然が3つ続くなんて放っておける要素じゃないだろ。
A phone rang. It was mine.
はい、もしもし。
事件だ。いや、事故？とにかくタクの言う通りのことが起きたかもしれないんだよ。
I could feel my heart starting to race as she spoke. All right, so that is going to do it for part 1. And very interesting. I like the fact that they just kind of throw you into the world. They're like, hey, here's a quick recap of what happened in the first game. And then just, boom, introduce us to, like, the new murders happening. There was not much of a build up to it. It's just like wham bam, here we go. So already I am intrigued by it. And then we've got our new protagonist who, like I said, a lot of striking similarities to the protagonist from the first game. Don't know if that's intentional. It's the fact that their names are very similar. They have a couple of like things about them that are very, very similar, especially the whole thing about like this character not going to school for much of elementary and middle school. Like that's very similar to Takumi. So it might be out there, but like my thought is this some weird parallel world version of Takumi? I could be totally wrong on this, but yes, he's not quite as insufferable as Takumi. He at least does have some social skills. He can talk to people. He does have friends, or at least acquaintances. He does go to school. He involves himself in a club, so that's something. At least he's not holed up. That's another thing too, is Takuru lives in an RV, Takumi lived in a storage unit. It's a whole thing where it's like they're weirdly shut off from like people in their own world. They're not living with their family or anything despite being in high school. Kind of a weird situation. But yeah, we've got the connection with the new gen madness, these killings happening on the same days. And, you know, finishing off this episode with saying that another murder has happened, so it seems like Takuru is on the right path with this. So there's this shadow group that seems to be going around and killing people. So I'm like, oh, this is very intriguing. So I like this. A good first episode. It's got me hooked. So I'm very excited to see where it's going to go from here, who the next person murdered is going to be, and how, and what connection they have with the previous victims. So that's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the first episode of Chaos Child, and stay tuned next week for part 2. Until then, bye. Special shoutouts to my top tier patrons: Revealing Storm, Linz VA, Kenju Storm, iCognito, Sean, Waz RD1, and iZuzu.